Hey everyone, in this screencast we're going to be building a MessageBoard application in Ruby on Rails from start to finish. In this application, users are going to have the ability to sign in and sign out. They're going to have the ability to create some new messages, and each new message is going to appear as a list on our home page. Each message we're going to be able to access by clicking View Message, and we're going to see a show page for that message. And each message's show page will also house a comment form where users can come in and comment on the message. And one thing that I wanted to ensure is users who created the message or created the comment are the only user who can edit or delete. For example, I'm signed in as John Snow at example.com. So if I go to the bottom here, I have access to edit and delete. And I also have access to edit and delete my own comments. So for example, if I go in and create another comment, I want this for the Toyota, you'll see the comment will appear right there. And likewise, if I go to the message and I want a MessageBoard and I create a new message, we'll just type in some filler text here and create the message. It'll appear in the list. And if I go back to a message that's not created by me, I won't see the edit and delete functionality. Alright, so that's the MessageBoard application we're going to be building. The functionality is very similar to that of a forum, but I just decided to call it a MessageBoard. So without further ado, let's get into building this. Okay, so now I'm inside my terminal on a Mac, and on a Windows it'd be your command prompt, and the first thing I want to do to create any Rails application is to run the Rails new command. So to do that, first I'm going to cd into where I'm going to be building this application. And in my case, it's going to be a folder called screencasts. And once I'm in there, I'm going to run Rails new, and it's going to be followed by the name of the application you want to create. In my case, it's going to be MessageBoard. So we're going to run the command Rails new MessageBoard, and what this is going to do is it's going to fetch all the files and all this sort of base functionality that's going to be used for any starting Rails application. So once we have our application created, I'm actually going to do something really quick. I'm going to initialize, actually first I'm going to cd into that MessageBoard application, and then I'm going to initialize a Git repository. Now Git is a version control system, and you do not need Git to follow along. I'm just doing this so at the end I can push this up to GitHub for all you guys to use and to reference. So I'm going to do git init, then run a git status, and I'll git add all those untracked files, and then I will commit with the message initial commit. Alright, and if you're not using Git, that's fine. Just follow along. It's going to be the same exact for people who are using Git and people who aren't using Git. So the first thing I'm going to do in this application is, if you look over here at our MessageBoard app, we have all these messages, and each message has a data model. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create that model. I'm going to go in and do Rails generate model, and the name of our model is going to be a message because it represents a single message. And each message, if we look back over again, has a title, and if we view the message, it's going to be a description. So I'm going to do Rails generate model message title, which is going to be a string, and we're going to have a description, which is text. So I'm going to hit the enter key, and what this is going to do is it's going to generate some files for us. One of the files is a migration file, and it's just create messages.rb, and this is creating the messages table for us. And we're also creating a message model file. And before I go and view those files, I want to run a command called rake db migrate. And what this does is it updates our current application to have any changes that we've made to the model. So it basically updates our current application with the most recent model changes and the most recent database changes. So I'm going to clear my terminal right there, and now I'm going to go into Sublime, and I'm going to open up the MessageBoard application, and I'll delete the duplicate. And once that's up, I'm going to swing that over here quick. Okay, so now that we have our message open, or our application open in Sublime Text, I'm going to show you the files that were created. When we created the model, you saw that we had this migration file, which is in DB migrate, and right here you'll see create table messages. Now what this does is it creates our messages table, and we have a title attribute and a description attribute, which is what we passed to the command line when we created that message model. And you can see the title is a string and the description is text. So with that being said, we also have a app model file for our message, which is currently blank. This is where we will add associations between this model and other models. And as a quick overview of this structure, we have an app directory, which is where we have all the code specific to our own application. The config directory is where we'll be going for our routes, and the DB directory has our migrations. We're going to be spending, I'd say, 95% of our time in the app directory, working in there. And we also have a gem file, which is where I will be adding gems when we add a few gems for some additional functionality. Alright, so let's head back into the terminal quick, and now we're going to generate our controller. And the controller basically houses the actions that correspond to views in the browser. You can think of the controller as the go-between between our views, which is what the user will see, and our database, our backend. So I'm going to run the command rails generate controller, and the name of our controller is going to be messages. That's basically all you need to type in for generating a controller, and you'll see that it creates an app/controllers/messages controller file. And if we swing over into Sublime, we will see that messages controller right here. And this file again is also blank to start, but it won't be blank for too much longer. We're going to get in and add some stuff for our index action. So what we want to do is we want to create, actually let's go into our terminal again, and I'm going to do a Rails server. And what Rails server does is it generates a sort of local viewing environment for our application. And this was the old application, so I'm just going to refresh, and we'll see welcome aboard, you're writing Ruby on Rails. And this essentially means that we have Ruby, Rails is working, we're good to go. So what we want to do is when you first visit localhost, this is the root of your application, and I want the root page to house all of the messages like you guys saw. So to do this, we're going to go into our config.routes file, and we're going to create the root page as our index action, which is where we're going to list out all of our messages. So if we go into config routes.rb, we're going to see all these comments. You can just get rid of these, they aren't needed. If you want to read through them, you can. There's some good information in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a resourceful route. I'm going to do this by typing in resources messages. Now what this is going to do is it's going to generate a bunch of URLs for our messages controller, and these URLs, a lot of them associate with the actions we're going to have in our messages controller. So if I swing back over into our terminal and I go and type in a command called rake routes, this will bring up all the routes we currently have in our application. Now if I wouldn't have added resources messages, I would have got there are no routes, and it would have told me to add some, which is what I did. So right here you have the URL that the actions correspond to. So the index action by default corresponds to just /messages, and we want to change that to /nothing. We want it to be our root path. So a new message, for example, corresponds to /messages/new. That's where we would go if we want to create a new message. So first let's set up our root path. And to set up a root path, you do that by typing in root, and it's going to be the messages controller index action. Now if we go over here, we're going to get an error because we don't have an index action right now. Our messages controller is still blank. So we're going to go in and we're actually going to define that index action. So we'll do define index end. And right now we're just going to leave that blank because we want to get our root page set up and going. So now if we come back over to the browser and we refresh, we'll get a template is missing. Notice that we didn't get the action is missing, now we get template is missing. Template corresponds to the view files. So if we go into app views and we look at messages and I try to open it, you'll see that it's currently blank. There's nothing in there. So I'll right click and do new file, and I'll open up, or I'll create an index.html.erb file. Now the first part is what corresponds to the action. So index.html.erb corresponds to the index action of the messages controller. So I'll hit enter, and I'll put a little bit of filler text in here saying this is the index view. So now if we swing back over, we should see this is the index view. And we do. Sweet. So our root path is working, and we have URLs for the actions we're going to add to our messages controller. Before we dive into adding those actions, we actually want to get some Ruby gems for functionality in our application. So to do that, we're going to go to rubygems.org, and we're going to search for the gems we want. In our app, we're going to be using simple form, which is going to give us the ability to create new messages and create new comments in the future. So we'll grab the simple form, and on the right side here, you will see gem file. To get the gem we want, you just click the copy to clipboard, and we'll swing back over, open up our gem file, and I'm actually going to delete these comments. The comments, again, are helpful if you want to read them, and it kind of shows what some of the gems do. But, oops, okay, I'm good. Thought I deleted a gem there. And what we're going to do is once we have the gems copied to our clipboard, we're just going to paste them in here into the gem file. So I'm going to put mine up here. If you're going to use a gem in production, just be sure you don't put it down here. So if you just put it up here, you'll be fine. So that's the simple form gem. And another one I want to get right away is bootstrap-sass. Now, if you've used the Bootstrap framework, this is basically the ability to use Bootstrap, and it's ported from less to Sass, which is a pre-processing language. So I'll copy that gem and put it right below. Okay, so now that we have new gems in our gem file, one thing we need to do is run a command called bundle install. And what this does is it updates our gem file, and it tells our Ruby application to use these updated gems. So you'll see right now we'll get using simple form and using bootstrap-sass. So we updated our gem file with those gems, and in the future we're going to add another gem called devise. That's for user authentication, user sign-in. But right now we're just going to stick with simple form and bootstrap-sass. And now we can't, right away, we can't just use these two gems. We have to add some stuff to our application to make sure they're working the way we want. So right away, let's just get bootstrap-sass working. So we're on the Bootstrap page here, and we'll go to home page under the links, and we'll scroll down and we see what we need to do. So we have Sass Rails by default. We already have bootstrap-sass, and right here we need to add these to our application.scss file. So let's grab those, and let's go back over, and let's go into app assets, style sheets, and application.css. But first, let's rename that to be .scss. And we will throw that in, and we'll get out of there. We won't use that till the end when we add our styling. And now we'll get the application.js file, because I know we need to add require bootstrap in JavaScript. So we'll grab the bottom part because jQuery is in there by default, as you can see, and we'll just paste that in. So one thing we want to do when you add bootstrap-sass is you want to make sure you restart your server, because you will get an error. It's just something that bootstrap-sass does. We'll see the same thing with devise. When you install devise, you'll have to restart as well. So if we swing back over then to the message board, we should see the bootstrap sort of styling or typography. If you've used it before, you'll be able to tell, and right there, significant change in the typography. That means that we have bootstrap working. And we'll be using bootstrap for laying out our application and adding some styles, but a lot of the CSS will be customization of bootstrap. But I like using bootstrap for laying out the application. So now what we need to do is we need to install simple form. And I'll go through this pretty quick. Let's do simple form. And we'll get the home page. And what we need to do for simple form is pretty simple. If you're using Bootstrap, you can use the Rails generate simple form install Bootstrap, and if you're not, you can just leave out the Bootstrap flag. But since I'm using Bootstrap, I'm going to do that. So we'll go back into our terminal, We'll do Rails generate simple form install. Oh, the spelling. Simple form install bootstrap. And what this is going to do is it's going to give our forms the bootstrap styling we want. And I'm actually going to restart my server again, because to incorporate those changes in Bootstrap, we need to restart that. Alright, so what we want to do now is, now we have our two gems in and ready to go, we're going to focus on adding the ability to create new messages in our application. So what we need to do to add the ability to create new messages in our application is we need to define actions in our controller. So if we go to messages controller, to create a new message, we're going to create two new actions. We'll do define new, and we'll do define create. Both of these are actions, and what we're going to do in the new action is we're going to specify what sort of the message is. So we're going to do @message gets message.new. Now @message is an instance variable, and what the denotes is, well, that's an instance variable, and the thing that's important is instance variables are able to be used in your views. So when we go to views messages, we'll have more views in the future, but we'll be able to use the @message variable in there to output message title, message description, and various other things. So create's going to look very similar. There's going to be one big difference. We'll do message.new. We're going to pass in what's called message params. So we're going to do params.require. We're going to require the message, and we're going to permit the attributes we want. And since we have a title and a description, we're going to permit those attributes. And one thing I want to do really quick is we're going to be using this params require in the update action as well. So what I want to do right away is I just want to extract that and put it in a private method. When you use code more than once, it's smart to extract it and try to make it as dry as possible, which means don't repeat yourself. But the functionality is not going to change. It just kind of makes it cleaner, and it's a little bit easier for you guys to see, I think. So we'll do message params. Now message params is going to correspond to when a user fills out the new message form. What the user types into that form is what's going to be represented here in message params. At this point, if we try and create a new message by going to the URL, which we can find by doing rake routes. Let's see, we want to do a new message, so we go to messages new, and we go messages new. We should get a template is missing error right there. We're missing the new template, new.html.erb, because we don't have that. So we'll go into messages and we'll create that file, new.html.erb, and we'll just put a placeholder again, new message. If we go back, we should see new message at the top, and we do. Awesome. So what we want to render here is the form for creating that message, and when we create forms, it's generally good practice to put it into a partial file. So I'm going to create another file called form.html.erb. Now form is prefixed with a underscore, and that denotes a partial file. So what we're going to do in the form now is we're going to use the simple form gem that we included in our application to sort of generate the form that we want. So I'm going to go back over to the simple form. I'm going to make sure I know what the syntax is, and right here we're going to do something similar to this, but instead of @user and @all these, we're going to use what we want. So go back into the form partial and do simple form for, and this form is for an @message, and now we can use @message because we're going to be rendering this partial in the new view, and remember the new action has the @message instance variable defined. So simple form for @message, do F, and we'll end that. And inside here we will do an f.input, and f.input denotes creating an index, or not an index, an input field. So right here we want the user to be able to input the title, and I'm actually going to label that as message title. By default, if you don't specify a label, it will take on just the name of the attribute itself. but instead of just saying title, I want to say message title. And we'll do another one for the description. And I'm not going to do a label for that. And last, we need a submit button. So do f.button submit. All right. So now we have our form ready to go, and now we need to render it in our new view. So we'll do render form. Now what this is going to do is it's going to have our new message here, our header, and now right below this we're going to get a form right here. Now we'll have a message title. This is where you would type in the value that would get associated with title. Here you would type in what gets associated with description, and when you hit create message, it's going to pass that as message params. So what we want to do, let's test this out. Let's just create some dummy text. Let's say looking to sell my Toyota. Okay, and we'll just put in some description text. To get some filler text, I'll go to hipster ipsum, which is hipsum.co, and I'll just get some description text. Now something we're going to run into when we hit create is we're going to get a template is missing error, and that's because we haven't created a create.html.erb file, and we actually don't want to. So how do we fix a template is missing if we don't actually want to create the template? Well, what we do is we redirect. So we'll head back into the messages controller, and we'll add some more to the create method. What we want to do is we want to add if the message saves or is created correctly, we're going to redirect to the root path. Now what we're going to do right after this is in the root path, we're going to list out all the messages that have been created. So we're going to redirect to that, and if it's not successful, we're just going to render a new form. So if we go back, we hit create message, it's going to take us to the index view. That means it was a successful creation because we got redirected to the index view. Now we want to turn our attention to looping through the messages in the index page. So since we're dealing with the index page, we'll deal with the index action. And what we're going to do is we're going to define at messages, plural because we're going to get multiple messages, and it's going to be message.all, and we're going to order that by created at descending. Now when we do message.all, we're getting all the messages from our message model, and when we order by created at descending, that's going to put the most recent messages at the top. So when we do that, we're going to go back into our index file now, and let's loop through those messages and output them. So we can access at messages because we define that in the index action, and it's an instance variable. So do at messages.each do message, and right here message denotes each instance of at messages. And what we're going to do, I'm actually going to close this right away so I don't get an error for not closing. And we're going to do, let's put this in an H2 Ruby code. The ERB stands for embedded Ruby, so you can embed your Ruby code inside HTML. And for each one, we're going to output the message title. So when we go to our browser now, we should see the title for the message we created. Awesome. I actually want to add a link to, on the index page, link to new message. Now what a link to does is it creates a anchor tag. So this will create in our HTML sort of representation, it'll have an anchor tag. And the text it's going to show is new message, and now we want to specify sort of the path to the URL. So if we go back in here, we already have our rake routes up, and we want to see right here new message. And what we can do is we take this prefix part and we just add underscore path, and that'll take us to what we want. So we'll do new message path. If we save that and come over, we'll see in a little link. When we click on that, we'll be able to make a new message. So let's do that. Let's do any awesome Sublime text themes. As you can see, I've been doing this a good amount, so don't judge. And we're going to put a little bit of filler text in, and when we create, it'll be added to the top. As you can see, we're still looping through. Alright, we're making good progress. So what we want to do now is we want to focus on adding the ability to view just a single message. Now we can do that by going, if we look in our rake routes, the show page is messages and the ID of the message. So if we want, say, the second one we created, we could actually just go to, oh, the typing is off, messages/2, and we'll actually get an action show is missing, but this is where we would show the second message. So first off, let's add that show action so we don't get that error. Let's go right here, just as we've done for all the other ones. We'll define show, and now to show a message we first need to, well, find the message. So we'll do @message, the instance variable gets message.find the params ID. Now this will find the message that we are trying to access. So if we go back over now, we'll get a template is missing because we don't have a show.html file. So let's add that so we don't get that error. Show.html.erb, and in this file we simply just want to output the message title and the message description. So let's go ahead and output the title as an h2, and remember in our show action we have @message available, so we'll do @message.title, and we'll do @message.description. Alright, so if we go back here, we will see the title and the description. Now one thing we want to do is, in the future, I actually want to mark something quick, add a posted at timestamp. This is something we're going to deal with in the future, but under here we're also going to add a timestamp of who created it and when. But first I want to head back to the messages controller, and this finding message I'm actually going to be using a lot for the show action, which we just did, and the edit, update, and destroy actions we're going to add in the next section. They're all actually going to have to find the message. So what I'm going to do, similar to message params, I'm just going to call this one find message, and I'm just going to paste it in. Now so the method so the actions know to find the message. I'm going to add a before action. Before action. Now this just executes code before any of the actions take place. So before action, we're going to find a message, but we're only going to do that for the views that need it, which is the show, the edit, the update, and the destroy. So if we do it again, you'll still see that it's working fine. Alright, so one thing I do want to add is, so we don't have to keep typing in the URL, I want to add a button that says view message, and it takes us to, well, that message. So let's go back into our show, not show page, our index page. And what I want to do is right under here, for each message, I want the view button to appear. So to do that, I'm going to actually create another link to, but this time I'm going to add a button class, so it looks like a button. With link to tags, you can simply add HTML classes at the end, as we'll see. So we'll link to view message, and to view message, that is, check the rake routes, the show is just the message path, but this time it's going to be with respect to the message, so message path with respect to the message. Now we don't have @message available, but we do have message, which represents each instance. And after this, we'll add a class to add it, to give it some button styling. BTN default. These are bootstrap styles. So when we refresh, we'll see some nice cool buttons. So if we click it, we go to the show page. Awesome. So now what we want to do is we want to add some edit and delete links on the show pages. We want to add those actions in the messages controller. So let's go in and let's define edit, update, and destroy. We'll focus on edit and update first, and then we'll touch on destroy. So in edit, all we're really going to do is find the message, and update, the action update, is actually going to act kind of like create. So you can think of edit and update in this case as acting pretty similar to new and create in a way, in that update isn't going to have an update.html.erb view. It's actually going to redirect when it's updated successfully, similar to how create worked. So what we're going to do to start is, as you can see up here, we're finding the message for edit. So @message is available in edit. So what we're going to do to start is we're actually going to create the edit template, because I want to have that available right away. And before that, we're going to go into the show view for the message, and we're going to add a link to it, so I don't have to keep typing in the URL. So we're going to do link to. This is just going to be edit, and the path is going to be edit message path. Edit message path, and that's going to be with respect to the message. And this time, instead of using just message, we have @message available, and we don't have message available. So we'll use that. And if we go back here, now we'll see an edit link. If we click on that, we'll get a blank edit page. We do have an edit template, but we don't have anything in it. And what we want to render here is a form populated with all this information already. So to do that, we're going to go into the edit. Let's add a little header. We'll do edit message. And below that, we're going to render the form. We're going to render the same form partial right here, but we're going to render it again in the edit. And as you can see, Rails automatically puts in all the information that's already there, which is awesome. So now if we try and update it with some exclamation points, we'll get an update template is missing. And the reason is we don't have the update template. So like I said, we're gonna treat this similar to how we did create, in that we're gonna write if the message is available, because we're finding @message in update. If the message updates successfully, what we're gonna do, and actually it's gonna update with the message params because we're passing in the form values. So if the message updates, we're gonna redirect to the message show page. So the message show page is message path, and and if it's not successful, we're gonna render and edit. We're gonna end. So now if I go back and I hit update, so as exclamation points, we'll go to the show page and you'll see the exclamation points right there. Sweet. So one thing I do want to add now that we have edit functionality down is I want to add another link to that will just take us to the root page. So this I'll just link to, I'll just call it back. This is simply just going to go to the root path. If I refresh, hit back, and we're in the index page. Awesome. So say I don't want to sell my Toyota and I want to get rid of it before anyone replies. I need to create a way to destroy it. So let's go into our messages controller, and since we are finding the message @message in destroy, we can simply do @message.destroy. Pretty basic. And then when it's destroyed, we won't have the show page to show because the message is non-existent at this point. We'll redirect to the root path. And to do this, we need to add a link in the message show page. And man, my typing is really bad. I apologize. A link to delete. And we're going to delete by going to the show page, message path, with respect to the current message. And now delete's a little bit different. We need to add a method of delete, and we're going to add a data confirm. The data confirm is optional, but what this does is when we click delete, as you will see, it'll pop up a JavaScript alert message saying, hey, are you sure you want to delete this? So we'll do, are you sure? Let's say we don't want this. We'll click delete. Are you sure? Okay, and it's gone. There we go. So we now have the ability to create new messages, which we can do again. Let's just type in The Witcher 3 is amazing, which it is, by the way. And we'll add some filler text. Go in, create one, and there it is. So our messages have the ability to be created, edited, and destroyed. And we're listing all of our messages on our root page, which is our index action. Okay, so now that all that's taken care of, let's focus on adding users to our application. So to do that, we're going to go to Ruby Gems, and we're going to get a gem called devise. Devise is a way to add users, add that sort of functionality that's common with most websites. So we'll go get the gem and we'll put it in our gem file. Just put it right under bootstrap-sass, close that, close some files we don't really need right now so it's easier for you guys to see. And we'll go to the home page so we can see what we need to do. What we need to do with devise, it's actually pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. We have the gem, we just need to do Rails generate devise install. Rails generate devise install. Okay, so when you run that, you're going to get some things that they're recommending you to do. We have a root, and these right here are just some notifications that will appear when you log in saying it was successful or it wasn't, or when you sign out. So we're going to add those to our application layout file. Now this file is pretty sweet. What the application layout file does is it provides sort of common components to everything you're dealing with, really. So all this is going to be applied to every single one of these views, because the views are actually only inserted right here at this yield sign. So everything we're doing in all of these separate views actually just goes right here. So these notices and alerts will be available to every single view that we visit. Alright, so what else we need to do is run Rails generate devise and the model name. Since this is for a user, actually, oh, one more thing. Rails generate devise views. This is optional, but what it does is it gives you a little bit, it gives you access to customize what your devise default views are. For example, we're going to be using the sign up and login pages a lot. So it also, when you do Rails generate devise views, is it gives you the bootstrap styling you want on those views. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to do the, what is it again? Rails generate devise. Rails generate devise user, because we want a user model. And this will act the same way as when you do the generate model command. Oh, excuse me. So this is going to create our migration file, which creates the users table, and it creates a user model. So now to affect those changes in our app, we're going to do rake db migrate, and let's actually check out what was created for us. So we'll swing into the db folder here, migrate, and here's our devise create users, and then right here create table users. Now there's a lot of stuff in here, and it's a lot more in depth than when we created the messages over here, but just don't worry about it. It's nothing you really need to worry about for this app at all. Just know that we have a users table. And I forgot to save this. Okay, so now what we want to do is when we create messages at the current state in our application, it's not associated with a user, and that's what we want to do. First, before anything actually, let's restart the server, because when you install devise, you need to restart the server to affect some of the changes. What we're going to do to start off first, we're actually going to go into our application layout file, which we were in over here, and we're going to create a nav bar. Now the nav bar is just going to act as a way for us to get to the sign up links, the sign out links, the sign in links. This will just save us some time from having to type in all the default URLs. So actually, let's just add that right now. Now these are all going to be Bootstrap classes for the most part. So I'm going to add a class of navbar default. Now I'm going to customize all these classes at the end, so it's not going to look like a typical Bootstrap application. So it's going to look kind of ugly. Actually, it's going to look pretty ugly to start, but by the end of it, it'll look a lot nicer. Well, nice meaning what you guys saw at the beginning. If that's nice, then good. If not, I'm sorry, I tried. So we'll do a div then, class of navbar header, and this is where we're going to put sort of the brand text. And by the way, if you do want to use Bootstrap, you can go to getbootstrap.com. I'm sort of just going right through the stylings right here in the navbar default navbar header. I'm going to add a navbar brand, and to get an anchor tag in Rails, we just do a link to. This is going to link to our app name, which is going to be MessageBoard, and it's just going to go to the root path. So if you click on the brand, it'll just take you to the home page. And let's see if our styles are working. And we need to add the class. And like I said, you can add classes to this link to tag by just adding class class colon and the class styles. This is just gonna be navbar brand, and that will get some default styling. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to add some links. We're gonna add an unordered list, which is gonna have the class of navbar nav. This is just basically our navigation. I'm gonna add a list item, and this is gonna be a link to sign up to our application. Now, everyone's going to be able to sign up, so even if you're logged in or logged out of our application, you'll have a link to sign up. One thing I want to make sure is when a user is signed into the application that they only get a sign out link. They don't get a login link because, well, they're logged in. There's no point of logging in again if you're already logged in. And the same thing goes if you're logged out. You should only see a login, not a sign out. You can't sign out if you're not logged in. So I want to prevent users from sort of breaking the system and getting errors and all that stuff. It's just looking out for the common folk here, looking out for the user. So we'll do a link to sign up, new. Actually, what is? And again, if you don't remember the paths in your head, you really don't have to. Once you use a framework like Devise a lot, you kind of remember all of them. But say we want to sign up, we go to rake routes, and right here, new user registration, and then you just end it with path. So new user registration path, and that's that. So if we go back over here, and we have the sign up link, and we can click that and go to the sign up page. Sweet. And we are going to sign up for a user once we get all this in, and then I'm actually going to add a if conditional here. Now I want to check if a user is signed in. So if a user is signed in to the application, what we're going to do is we're going to link the sign out. So we're going to do link to sign out, and sign out is, if we look at rake routes, sorry I keep going the other way, I keep forgetting where my tabs are. So sign out is destroy user session, and this actually has a method of delete, so we need to specify that. So destroy user session path, and we'll have a method of delete. We're not going to do a confirmation for this, no point. And you see it's not signing up because we actually don't have an account. We're not signed in, so we're not going to see it. And then what I also want to do is add an else. So if the user is not signed in like us, we should see a link to sign in. And we'll just add that. We'll actually call it login so we don't see too many signs up in the nav bar. So we'll do login. And login's path is, let's check out what that is. Sign in, new user session. So we'll do new user, new user session path. Now we refresh, we should see login. There we go. And now there's one more link I want to add. I'm going to add that outside of our nav so I can float it to the right. I'm just going to add another conditional. It's going to be the same as the one above. If a user is signed in, what I want to do is I want to add a, let's see, what do I want to do? I want to add a paragraph tag that's going to link to creating a new message. So I don't want users who aren't signed in to be able to create a new message, but at the current state, the user could type in the URL if they know it and get there, but I'm going to add some way to prevent that in a little bit. So I'm going to link to new message, and this is just going to be new message path, and it's going to have class of navbar right, which will float it to the right. We have navbar text and navbar link. Did I read that? No. Okay. So we won't see that because we're not signed in. So let's sign up for an account. I'll call myself John Snow and just add some passwords or password. And you'll see right here we get welcome, you sign up successfully, and log in, change to sign out, And now we have access to creating a new message, which we can create right now. Awesome. All right, so now that we have a new user, let's add the ability to create a new message and have it be with respect to the current user who signed in. So let's go into our terminal and let's add that functionality, because right now, if we create a message, it's not going to be associated with anybody. So for example, if I go in and create a new message right now, say I want to say, let's say I went to an amazing concert yesterday, and we'll just fill it with a little bit of text here, and we'll create it. Now we're signed in as John Snow, and our ID is 1. So if we go into the Rails console, ideally we want that message to have a user ID of 1, but we're not by default. We need to add a migration. So we're going to go Rails console, and let's just make sure that's the case. It is the case. I just want to kind of show you guys. Message. See, message doesn't even have a user ID at this point. So the message we just created is not even going to have a user ID value. So what we want to do is we actually want to create, we're going to go in, get out of this, and we want to create a migration. Now a migration is a way to update your database without, like, you don't have to create a new, you don't have to generate a model. Migration is a way to modify a table and, you know, all the fun stuff of back-end funness. So we'll do Rails generate migration. This is going to generate the migration, and we're going to add user ID to messages. We're going to add the user ID to the messages table, and we're going to denote the user ID as an integer. So Rails generate migration, add user ID to messages, user ID integer. All right. So once we create that, it's going to create a migration file, and let's check that out. Close up some of these. DB migrate, add user ID to messages. There we go. Add user ID to messages. It's adding user ID to the messages table, and user ID is an integer. All right. So to enforce that, let's run a rake DB migrate, and that's going to update our database, or update our application with the most current database. And now what we want to do is we want to create something called associations. Associations are a way to associate sort of two models. So so I don't confuse you guys, I'll just go in and do it. This is actually a very simple thing to do. So there's two ways you can do an association, two basic ways. Has many and belongs to. And a message belongs to a user, and a user has many messages. All right, so that's working great. So what that does is, again, it creates an association between those two models. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure, we'll go back into the Rails console, and we want to make sure that message now has a user ID attribute to it. So do message, and we should see right here, user ID integer. So message, unlike earlier, now has a user ID attribute. Now, if we create a message currently, the message will not be made with respect to the user. It will have a nil value. So, for example, if we go and get at message gets message.last, we'll see user ID is nil. This was because we didn't have the value beforehand. But even now in our current application, if we create a message, it's not with respect to the current user. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and make sure that when we create a message now, it takes in the user ID's value of the current user. So let's get out of this, and I'll just show you what I mean. So we'll go into the messages controller, and we're going to edit the new and create actions. So new is now going to be, instead of just messages.new, it's going to be a new message with respect to the user. So we're going to do current user dot messages, so messages of the current user, and we're going to build that out. So you're going to build messages from the current user, and the same thing is going to go for create. Do current user dot messages dot build, and this is still going to take in your message params. Now, if we go into our application or go into our Rails console, actually, let's go and create a new message first. So let's create another new message. And let's just say, which MVC framework should I learn? And we'll pass in this dude's comments. I'm just getting some different text so it looks different for each message. And we'll create. So now if we go into our Rails console, what we should see is message.last, so the most recent message, should have a user ID of 1. So we'll do message.connection. And we'll do @message gets message.last. And we'll see right here, user ID of 1. Awesome. So one thing I do want to do before we move on to generating comments for our messages is I want to take all the comments or all the messages, that we've created down here and associate them with the user ID because they don't have a user ID right now. So we'll just say the first user created all of them. So we'll do @message gets message.first. And we'll see that is the any Sublime text themes. We deleted the first one with an ID of 1. Earlier on, you'll see that it says ID of 2. So what we'll do is then we'll do @message.user ID gets 1. So we're associating that message with the user ID of 1, and then we're just going to save that. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to do that again. This time we're going to get the other ones. So I think the other one's 3, which 3 is amazing. There it is. And now let's hit the up arrow to set the user ID and save it. And I want to find the 4th one, which is the Went to Amazing Concert. Set the user ID and save it. All right, so we can get out of the Rails console. Now all of our messages are associated with a user. One more point I want to make, or one more thing I want to show you guys is, so if I sign in as a new user, let's do Ned Stark. Actually, no, I want to sign up. I'm going to create a new user. I want to show you that when you create a message with a new user, the user ID will change. So we'll add some password stuff, and we'll get out of there. And I'll just create a new message. And this one will be, let's say he's looking for some Ruby on Rails work. Let's actually just type in freelance work. And let's get some text. This one could be a longer one. Could be saying his qualifications. And now we'll swing back over to the Rails console. We'll establish a connection, and we'll do message gets message.last, and the user ID is different. It is 2. Awesome. So now we can get out of the console and we can focus on creating our comments. All right, so we covered a lot so far, but we are nearing the end of the functionality. What we need to do now is we need to create abilities to add comments, edit comments, and all the fun stuff that makes this app actually useful, I guess. So what we want to do is we want to start off similar to how we did the message. We want to create the comment model. So we'll go into the console, which I already am in, do Rails, generate, and we'll do model, which is comment. And the model is gonna, the comment is gonna have a content attribute, which is gonna be text, which is basically gonna be the comment itself. And we're also gonna do message references and user references. So we have Rails generate model comment. So we're generating a comment model. It's gonna have a content attribute, which is text. And we're going to have message references and user references. Now, you might be wondering, what does this references mean? Well, you can basically think of it as being belongs to. So we're basically saying that a comment belongs to message and comment belongs to user. It's kind of a way of creating an association without having to actually type it in by hand. So let's actually just go ahead and create this. And it's going to create our create comments migration file, our comments table. We're going to have the comment model. And let's go ahead and show you that the associations were made. So let's go into, actually let's open that up. Right here we have the comment model. And right here it already says belongs to message and belongs to user. Now before we add the associations with the other models, user and message, let's dive into the DB and make sure that I just want to show you right here, creating the comments table and has the content attribute. Okay, so let's go back into message, and a message belongs to a user and also has many comments. A user has many messages and it also has many comments. Okay, so did we run rake db migrate? I don't think we did. No, we didn't. So let's run rake db. Actually, I want to show you the error. So if you don't run rake db migrate, you're going to get a pending migrations error. Migrations are pending. That means just update your database or update your app. Rake db migrate. We will run that. And there we go. That's updating our database with the comments table. And okay, so we added the associations. Now what we want to do is I want to show you that if we go into the Rails console and we establish a connection with comment, and we do comment, comment has a user ID. So we don't need to add user ID to comment like we did for messages. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a comment controller right away. Rails generate. Now generate and G are actually the same thing, so you can do actually Rails G. I've just been using generate because it's a little bit more explicit and you guys can tell what's going on. So Rails generate controller, and just call this comments. Rails generate controller comments. And what this is going to do is just, well, going to create the comments controller. So we go into our Sublime text view and we go to controllers, comments controller. You'll see that it's right here, but it's blank. And I'm actually going to clear a lot of these windows, so I only need what I need. So now we're gonna deal with the routes. So if you looked here, when we created the devise and we added the ability to create users, sign in, all the fun stuff, it actually created all those routes. Actually, let's refresh this so we can get rid of that. Okay, so if you actually looked, if you look into here, I was showing you guys all these routes. We actually didn't add anything. That's because devise added it by default. I just thought I'd mention that. And what we want to do now is, since comments are part of a message, they're going to be what's called a nested resource. So to do a nested resource, we're going to do get rid of that, resources, comments. So now if we go back to our terminal, we rake the routes, we'll see we have a lot more now. All right. So if you look where my cursor is, where we have the comments routes, you can see that the index for comments is at message comments because we have the message show page and it's showing all the comments on that page. New message comment, it's creating a comment with respect to the message, and so on. So I'll leave these rake routes up, and now we want to add the ability to create a comment. Now to do that, we're going to go into our comments controller. Similar to how we created a create action for the messages, we're going to go into our comments controller. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and create a create action. I'm going to create a little bit of space. Okay. So what we want to do to start, when we create a comment, we first want to find the message that the comment is going to be built with respect to. So we'll do at message gets message dot find by the params message ID. Oh, message ID. And then from that, we're going to find the comment. Comment gets at message dot comments dot create. I'm going to create it with respect to comment params. Now we don't have this defined just yet, but we are. Comment params is similar to what we did for the messages controller when we passed in params.require. So we'll actually do that right now so it's not bugging me. Define comment params, and we'll just do params.require. Require the comment. Now this is just the name of the model, so require comment, and we'll permit the attributes, and there's only one, and it's content. So right now we're finding the message by the message ID, and we're finding or creating the comment with respect to that message. So now another thing I want to do is save a little bit of time. When we create the comment, we want it to be with respect to the current user. So to do that, we can do @comment.userID, because user ID is an attribute, and we can access that with just a little dot notation. So the comments user ID is going to get set to the current user's ID. Okay, and now we're going to do if the comment.save. So if we create the comment successfully, we will redirect to the message show page, which is denoted by just message path, I believe. Yeah, message show, message path, but it's going to be with respect to that message. And if it doesn't, we'll just render new. Alright, so that is the create method. This gives us the ability to create a new comment with respect to the current user. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a way that users can actually input their comment. And what we want to do is we want to create another form partial. This form partial is going to be for creating the comment. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into views, comments, and you can see it's blank for right now. Let's create another _form.html.arb. And this form partial is actually going to be rendered in the show page for the message. So if we go to a message, we have the show page. This will obviously be styled in a little bit. We're going to have the comment form right here. So when they're viewing the message, they can be like, oh, hey, I want to comment on this. So we want to give them the ability to comment. All right. So what we want to do to create this form partial is we want to do the simple form for, just like we did for the message one. So we'll go back in, and we'll start off the same. We'll do simple form for. Now this time we're going to pass in, it's not just going to be for @comment or @message. The reason we're going to be, we're actually going to be passing in two, parameters to this. The first one's going to be @message, but we're not making it for just @message. We're getting @message, and then we're also getting the comments for it, and we're building the comments out from that. Now to explain this, we're getting the message that we're on. This is going to be rendered in the show page, so we're going to get that message, and then what we're going to do is we're going to build comments from that message. So each time we submit this form, we'll be building comments with respect to that message. So we'll do F. Oh my, do F. The spelling is so bad. I am so sorry. And oh, now I'm even doing that wrong. And then we'll end. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we want to add some input fields for the comment, and we only have a content attribute. So that's all we really need to add. We'll do f.input, content attribute, and we're just going to label this as comment instead. The reason I'm labeling this comment is because it's technically just a comment, but I didn't want to name the attribute comment because then we would have comment model and comment attribute. That could get a little tough to look at. So then we'll add the submit button, f.button submit, and we'll save that. So now let's focus on rendering this form in the message show page. So we're going to messages show.html.erb, and under the description and above the links, we'll do a header 3, I think. We'll do a header 3. Then we'll do reply to message. And below that, we're going to render the form. We're going to render comments/form. The reason we're putting comments in front is because it's not in the same directory, so we have to prefix it with the directory it's in. So we'll go back and we'll refresh, and there we get the reply to message form. Awesome. Now, one thing we want to do is when we create a message, we want to add a spot to, well, show those messages. And we want that to be right up here. So we're going to do like looking for some Ruby on Rails freelance work. We'll have its description, and then we'll list the comments. And then below that, we'll have the reply to message form. So to do that, first we're going to create a comment partial. Now this comment partial is going to be sort of representing each individual comment. So each comment we show, this partial is going to tell us sort of what we are actually going to show. It might sound a little confusing, but it will make sense right when I do this. So we'll do comment.content. So what this does is this comment partial is getting the comment content. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the show page. I'm going to add another section, and this is just going to say comments. Do I want? Yeah, I'll just do comments. And then below that, I'm going to render the message dot comments. Now when I refresh this, oops, what did I do? What did I do? Oh, the spelling again. My apologies. So now if we go back, we'll get comments. No, it's blank right now. But you'll see when I create a message, I'll sign in saying, I can help you with that. Create the comment, and there it is. So this is a little confusing. It's kind of weird, but we're rendering right here. We're rendering the message's comments, and each comment's form and how it's structured is dictated by this comment partial file. So for each one, you could actually put, if you really want, you could put cheese under here. I don't know why you would want to, but if we create another one, saying I need an app built. Put a comment. It'll also say cheese. Now there's probably no reason you would want cheese to appear unless this is like a cheese board or something. So we can get rid of that. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to add a timestamp to this. Now to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to add another paragraph. Actually, I'm going to add that a little bit later because it might get a little bit clustered for right now. But what we're going to do now is we're going to we're going to add the edit and update functionality to the comments. Now what we want to do is we want to add edit, and we want to add an edit link, and then we also want to add the delete link for each comment. And remember, for each comment, its structure is dictated by this comment partial. So what we're going to do, we're going to add links right now, actually. Okay, so let's go ahead and add 2 link tos, one for edit and one for delete. We will add the functionality in a second, but let's just add that right now. So we will write link to, link to edit, and that is going to be, let's see, how do we edit message comment? So we go back over, edit message comment path, and inside here we'll pass in, now this is going to be a little bit different. Instead of doing it with respect to a comment or respect to a message, we actually have to do it with respect to both. So what we're going to do to start is, since we have comment accessible, we'll do comment.message and comment. Now what this is going to do is this first part is going to find the message that we are replying to. So when we're editing a comment, we first have to find the message that the comment is sort of in response to. And then the second part finds the comment itself. Now, one way you can think of this, and an example would be if you have a message that has an ID of 3 and the comment is the first comment, so a comment of 1. The first part is going to get the /messages/3, so it's going to get the third message. And then the second part's going to get the first comment, so to get the URL /comment/1. So in the end, it would have the URL /messages/3/comments/1. So if that confused you, I'll put up there'll be some text beforehand, so it might help you guys a little bit. So the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to link to delete, and this will delete the comment, and this is going to be the message comment, so it'll be message comment path. It's going to get the same exact parameters in here. Comment.message, which finds the comment, which finds the message, my fault, and then comment, which will find the comment. And remember, it's a delete method, so when you do method delete, and we're going to do a data which confirm, are you sure? Sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Alright, so we get those links. Now, I'm not going to touch them right now because if I hit edit, I'm going to get no action edit. If I hit delete, we're going to get that are you sure, but there's no destroy action. Okay, so refresh that, make sure nothing happened. Alright, so now we need to add the actions to edit, update, delete to our comments controller. So let's go in there and let's begin by defining the edit action and also the update. So we'll do that first, then we'll worry about delete. So edit, sort of like how we did messages controller, to edit something we first need to find it. So let's go in and do, let's find the message. So oops, at message gets message.find by the params message ID, which is already right there. Awesome. And then we're going to, instead of create a comment, we're just going to find it. So at comment gets at message.comments.find by the params ID. Okay, so what this does right here is this is going to find the message and make at message instance variable available to our view, and this is going to find the comment, which makes at comment available to our view, and it basically finds the comment, it finds all the comments of the message, and then gets the one with the corresponding ID. So what we're going to do actually now is we're going to go into the action for update, and we're going to do if the comment updates with the comment params. Remember, when you're updating the file, you're passing in new values into the form, so we need to update the comment params, and it's getting passed in regardless. And we're going to redirect to the, let's redirect to the message show, because obviously the message show corresponds to the index for the comments. So message show, just message. So we'll do message path with respect to the message. And if not, we'll render and edit. Now you might be wondering, well, how do I access that message in this if I didn't define it? Well, that's where I'm going to actually extract these. As you can see, we have at message up here. We're finding a message here, finding a message here. We would find a message here, and we're going to find a message in destroy. Same thing with comment, except we're not finding a comment in create. We're just creating one. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extract this really quick. Just call it def find message, and we'll put that in. And we're actually finding a message. We're going to find a message for every single one of them, for every single action. So we don't need to specify an only for this before action. We can just do before action find message, and that now allows us to delete this message up here, this message in here, and we'll be finding a message for update. And the next one we want to do is find comments. Now again, like if you want to write out the same code for every single one, that's fine. It's not gonna hurt your application. This is just to clean it up and to sort of it's just good practice, good convention to extract out code and make it more dry. So this is just going to be at comment gets message.comments.find by params ID. Put that in there. Now we're going to find a comment for all of them except create. So for this, I can just do before action. Let's just find comment, and I'm going to do this only on edit, update, and destroy. Okay, now we can get rid of that. So again, edit is empty, just like the messages controller was, minus the finding the message and comment. Update, we're finding both, and I can get rid of. Actually, that's it. All right. So now that we have our edit and update actions, what we need to do now is, since we already have the links for each comment, we need to create another form partial. Actually, instead of creating another form partial, let's actually just render the simple form inside the edit file for our comment. So we have the edit action, which we just did, but now let's go over to comments and create the corresponding template. Edit.html.erb. All right, and in here, let's just add a header saying edits comments. And again, we're going to use simple form 4. Now, instead of like message where we could just render the form again and get all the stuff pre-populated, we actually have to create another simple form for this. So we'll do simple form 4. And for this, it's going to get the corresponding message and the comment. Because each of these are defined in our comments controller, we have find message and find comment. At message is the message, and comment is the one of the comments from that message with the corresponding ID. So at comment and at message are both available to us. Do F, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna head down here, end it really quick before I make a mistake, and we'll do F.input. Again, we'll just do content, the label of comment, and we'll do below that F.button, submit. All right, so if we head back over here, refresh, hit edit, I can help you with that. We get a syntax error. Oh, right here's a period, should be a comma. That's one thing that's really nice about Rails. What am I trying to say? The errors. The errors are really helpful whenever you make a mistake, whether it's syntax. Some logic errors give some really good errors for that. So okay, so I can help you with that. Let's just add a couple more explanation points. We'll update, and there it is. It updated, and I need not built. Let's try and delete that. Action destroy cannot be found, and well, I haven't even added the destroy yet. So let's go back into the comments controller, and let's add that destroy. Now in destroy, we're finding both the message and the comment. So we have at message and at comment already available to us. So we'll just do at comment.destroy. This will destroy the comment, and then once it's destroyed, we'll redirect to the message show page, which is message path, with respect to that message. All right, so let's head back, delete, and there it is. All right, awesome. So that is the functionality essentially completed for this application, but I'm going to spend the next sort of section here on creating some conditionals to make it so that people who created the message can only delete messages that they created. They can only delete comments that they created and edit. So a user who did not create a comment should not be able to delete it, which we're seeing right now. But before that, let's actually add some timestamps so we can see who made what and when it was made. Okay, so let's dive in and make sure we put a created at right up here on the message show page below the title, so we see who made it. And let's dive in. Message show page, we have the message title, message description. Let's add the posted at timestamp right here. So let's do paragraph, and actually let's do it I said I wanted to do it below the title. Let's do that. So we'll go up here and we'll do, okay, so when we, each message has a user, obviously, and we can actually access that user's email. The email is generated through devise by something like this. So we can do, outside of this, I'll do posted by, and then we'll do the message, which is available in our message show view because we're finding it, at message instance variable .user.email. And then right after that, we're actually going to add another block, and we're going to find time ago in words. And then in here, we're going to find the message.createdAt attribute. So this is going to get the createdAt value, and it's going to format it in time ago in words. So then outside of that block, I'm going to write ago. If we head back into here, we'll see, okay, looking for some Ruby on Rails freelance work was posted by Ned Stark at example.com 33 minutes ago. So if we head back and we view another one, this was posted by John Snow at example.com 36 minutes ago. If we go to the very beginning, we'll get about an hour ago. So, all right, that's working. So let's do the same exact thing we just did, and let's do it for the comment. So we'll head into the comment partial because we want this to appear for each comment. And below the comment, we're going to do another paragraph, and we'll do posted by. And this time, since we have access to comment, we'll do comment.user.email. And after that, we'll do the time ago in words, time ago in words of comment.createdAt. And I don't want to mess something up there, ago. And we'll head back in here, we'll refresh. So looking for some Ruby on Rails freelance work, we scroll down, we can see, oh, the message was posted by Ned Stark 34 and the comment was posted by Ned Stark 18. Now it really wouldn't make sense for someone to reply to their own message, so I'll find one that kind of makes sense. Actually, I think I did that for all of them, to be honest, but you see the point. And to add a little bit more of a polish here, we're gonna, for example, we go into looking for Ruby on Rails freelance work and we see back, edit, and delete. Now we are logged in as Ned Stark, so what we want to do is when we view a message that's not made by him, we shouldn't see edit and delete. You shouldn't be able to delete someone else's message. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the message show page where we're linking all these, and we want the back to appear for everyone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some code. I'm going to go in and do if the message, since we have access to message, if the message ID, if the message.user ID, my fault. So if the message's user ID, so the user who created the message, equals the current user's ID, current user.id, then we will display these. And if not, we will end. Now one thing I want to do quick, because this will be an error, actually I'll show you the error, it might be helpful. So he didn't create this one, and he doesn't see the edit and delete. Awesome. So one thing I want to show you is if you go into here and we sign out and then we view something, we're going to get an error. Undefined method ID for nil. And the reason we're getting this is because the current user has no value because there's no one signed in. So current user is nil. So one thing we need to do before something like that, we need to go into here, and even before we check if they're the same, we need to check if there's a user signed into the application. So we'll just do if user signed in. Because if there's a user signed in, then current user won't be nil. But if there's not, it will be nil, and we don't want that code to run. So we refresh, go back in, and we don't get the error. Awesome. But we need to do the same exact thing we just did there for the comments. So let's go ahead and do that. So to impact I do not know why I just used the word impact, but in order to deal with these edit and delete buttons here, they are being rendered in the comment partial because it's being displayed for each comment. And what we're going to do is we're literally going to do the same exact thing we just did for the message filtering, and we're going to do it right here. So we'll start off by checking if a user is signed in first. So if user is signed in, and then we'll end that quick, and then we'll check if comment.userID equals current user.id, then we will run the code in here and we'll display the edit and delete buttons. And then we'll add an end, tab that in, tab this in, clean it up, and if we go back, see we're signing in as Ned Stark, and I did something wrong here. Oh wait. Oh, that's my bad. We're not even signed in, which is good because we didn't want the edit and delete to show up if we weren't signed in. So we'll sign in again as Ned Stark, and now we go into what I think was this one, and there we go. We see the edit and delete. And if we go to another one, I'm not sure if any of these actually have comments. Okay, but yeah, let's actually go ahead and add some more comments so we can see the styling a little bit better and all that fun stuff. So let's add, I recommend Ruby on Rails. Create a comment, and oops, go back out of that, and we'll go to here. I am also looking for some work. We'll kind of base off of this. Okay, so we're signed in as Jon Snow, and the comment for Ned Stark doesn't have edit and delete functionality, which is good. This message is made by Ned Stark, so we don't see the edit and delete, and we do see it for our comment. Awesome. One more piece of functionality we want to add is we want to ensure that users who aren't signed into our application can't just go up here and type in /messages/new. Now we are signed in, so we can go there, but if we sign out and we go to the same URL, we're going to get an error because we're calling a message on current user. So what we want to do is we want to prevent the user from even being able to go to this URL. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back in to our Sublime, and we're going to go to our controllers. We're going to add this not only for messages but also for comments. So for messages, we're going to add a before action. We're going to authenticate the user. This is from devise, by the way. So before action, authenticate user. You can find out the information right here. Authenticate user. But we don't want to authenticate the user on the index and the show actions, because even users who aren't signed in should be able to view the index page and should be able to see what's going on. See what's going on with the message, so view its show page. So we're going to do before action authenticate user except for index and show. So if we go back to our message board and we refresh, we're not signed in, but we can still view this stuff. And if we go back, we can not. So if a user tries to create a new message without an ID and he goes here, he's going to get a redirect to sign in. Awesome. And we're going to do one more thing. We're going to add the same functionality to the comments controller to prevent a user from being able to create a comment and then getting the current user error, just like we did for messages, except with respect to creating the comment. We're going to add another before action, and this time we're just going to do it for everything. Authenticate user, because you can't, we have no show view for comment, so when you view the show page for message, you're not technically viewing the show page for comment. This sounds a little confusing, but if you add before action authenticate user and we go back here, all the functionality is going to be the same if you're not signed in, but you won't be able to create a comment. So for example, we create will get redirected. We need to sign in or sign up before we can create a comment. So with the authenticate user added to both the message and comment controllers, the functionality for this app is basically done. So for the rest of this screencast, what I'm going to be doing is adding some HTML classes, adding some bootstrap classes to lay out the application, and adding classes that correspond to my CSS styling. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my GitHub repo, and I have open my the repository for this app, and you can view the repository for this app by going to the description below, and I'll have a link to the repository. This is just the styles we're going to be adding, so I'll grab these styles here and I'm going to copy, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing over here and I'm going to clean up these tabs quick, and I'm going to go into the app assets style sheets. This is where our style sheets for the application will live, and we'll open this up, and since I grabbed the imports, I can just replace those and paste it in. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we need to create the classes that correspond to these styles here. Now, I did these styles by myself, but in reality, you would go through the HTML first and add your classes and then create your CSS to correspond to your classes. I'm just doing this so I can better explain sort of what the CSS I was doing was. So it gives a little bit more insight onto why I styled what I did. So if we go back to MessageBoard and we refresh, we'll get some styling right out of the box. For example, the nav bar will be nice and styled. So if we go to the MessageBoard, we see all this, but now we need to clean up and lay the stuff out. So first of all, I just want to log in before I forget. I'm going to log in there. Okay. So we'll head to the MessageBoard, and what we want to do now is let's lay out the stuff. So let's go to the index page in our application, and we'll do messages index. So let's begin styling this index page with setting up a width for the message tiles. So as you saw when at the beginning of this, when you saw the completed message board, you saw that the messages were kind of in tiles, 3 in a row. So what we're going to do there is in Bootstrap you can specify column sizes, and there's 12 columns on a web page, and each column corresponds to a certain width. So what we're going to do, since it's a 12 column system, we're going to set 4 columns for each message, and that's going to allow us to fit 3 wide, 3 in a row. So inside each message here, we're going to add a div with a class of column medium 4. And now in here we're going to have the button and the title. So we're going to exit out of that, and we'll paste that in. And now another thing I want to do is remove this new message, since we have that in the nav bar. And I also want to add one more. I actually want to remove these classes because I actually have a class called btn custom in my styles. If we look over here, this has a background color of white, gives it a nice blue color to the text, a little bit different font, and a little bit of a hover style. So if we head over to our page and we refresh, we'll see that these are now laid out 3 wide, and we'll see a little bit of styling here on the message. But now we need to add the background styles to the index page. So inside of the column medium 4, we're actually going to add another class called message, and this is just going to represent each message. We'll exit out of that, and we'll paste it in, and now we'll see this nice sort of style right there. We have the nice matte black background with a blue border, and now we need to target the title. But first, I'll show you the styles that I added for the message. If we scroll down to the message section, here's some box sizing, background color, some margins. I actually set a height of 150 pixels, so each box was the same height, so it didn't go up and down. Alright, so let's add a class to style that title. We'll add a class right to this h2 that is just message title. And again, if we look into the application CSS, message title just gives some font size, some color, and some margin. And we refresh, we'll see a nice little styling here. Alright, so now if we view message, we still have a pretty ugly comment section, but the nav bar and the index are now looking pretty good. So now what we want to go to is our layout file, and in here what we want to do is we want to wrap the yield, and remember the yield is where all of our content is getting inserted, and we're just going to wrap the yield in a div with a class of container. And what container does is it kind of just part of my web development terms here, it kind of scrunches everything and provides some margin on the left and right side of the entire application. So we'll add the yield in here, and you'll see when I refresh we'll get a little bit of a margin on the left and right sides. I was pointing at the screen, but I don't think you could see me, so I'm just gonna ignore like I didn't do that. Alright, so now what I want to go to is the message show page. So let's open up the show.html.erb file, and let's clean this up a lot. So what I want to do for the show page is, if I view one of these, I want it to be centered with a little bit less of a width than the index page, and I want to have that same styling that's on the messages on the index page, and I want it to be on this show page right here. So actually I don't know why I'm doing that. I'll just leave it on there, and let's first wrap all of this in a div, and I'll give it a class of column medium 8 and a column medium offset of 2. And what this is going to do, since we have a 12 column wide grid system, the show column, the show content is going to be 8 columns wide, and it's going to be offset by 2, so it's going to center it a little bit more, and it's going to look pretty good. So what we're going to do is close that div now. We'll indent this, and I'll show you the sort of the width that we were looking for, and you'll see it gets compressed here. Now I want to add that padding div class, and this is kind of has similar styles to what the message had, but I adjusted the padding a little bit so it fits the show page a little bit better. So I'll indent that, and I'll show you the message show styles. If you go down here, again we have that background color, some padding's different, that same border, and we'll come in here and we'll refresh, and you'll see it's some nice dark styling here, nice dark background, white text. And now I'm going to figure out, I'm going to put some styling on the button here and add some a little bit more. So if we go back to our show page, I want to add a class to the posted at, so it would be a little bit more styling for that, make it a little bit smaller. Do message posted by. And below that, the description, I'm going to add a little bit of styling to the typography. We'll just do message description, and those styles correspond over here. Message description, with increasing the font size a little bit, line height's going up a good bit, a little bit of margin, and the message posted by, changing the color and the font size. So if we go back and we refresh, we'll see this is a little bit smaller, and we got some more font size right here, some more line height as well. Okay, so now we want to go down to the reply to message, and I actually changed this to give it a little bit of padding. So I just give it a class reply to message, and again that's just going to give it a little bit of padding here, a little bit of padding up top, I mean. And now the last part of the show page is our links. So I'm going to create a div with a class of links and btn group, and I'm going to take all of that, indent it, and then I'll close that div. And one thing I'm going to do is to all of the, well, to the edit and the delete buttons, I'm going to add some classes that make the button group work. Same thing with the backlink. I'm going to add a class, and I'm just going to copy this then to the next two areas, btn default, and this will give us some nice styling to these buttons. And we'll paste that in, and we'll go back over, we'll refresh, and we'll get, well, since this is made by me, I'll actually find a message that has all three. There we go. That nice little button group right there. So we'll go back into that. And now we want to focus on the comment styling. To target our comment styling, we're going to jump into Sublime and go into our comment partial file right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap all of this in a div tag, div with a class of comment, and we're going to indent that, close it, and then the comment content is going to have a class of, well, comment content, and the paragraph is going to have a class of comments posted by. Alright, and now we're going to wrap the if statement we have here in a class of links. I'm going to add the corresponding div tag down here, indent that in, and we'll refresh, and then we'll see some styling that we got from adding the comments. We have a nice border down here. The comment posted by has some styling for the text, and we had a little bit of padding now between the edit and delete buttons. The last part we need to style for the comments is this create comment button down here, and that is in the comment form. And what we're going to do, and one thing, when you have a submit button like this, the syntax for adding the a class to it's a little different. So we'll do class. Don't ask me why it's like this. I have no idea. But btn custom, which adds that custom button styling, and there we go. So that is the styling for the comments and the show page. So now what I want to do is I want to compress this new message a little bit. I also want to compress the sign up and login pages a little bit, similar to how we did the show page. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hop into the message show, grab the column offset, and let's go into the new message page, and we will just paste that in, close it, indent the content, and come back, and you'll see that it's a little bit more compressed. It looks a little bit nicer. Now if I sign out, say I want to go to sign up, I do want this to be compressed as well. And this is where generating the devise views comes in to help. You can go to devise, under views, go to registrations, and it's going to be a new registration. And again, we're just going to copy that column offset, close the div, indent the content, and if we come back, it'll be centered a little bit more. And if we go to login, we're going to do the same exact thing. Login is under sessions new, and we'll add that. We'll close the div, save it, come back over, and now that's indented. Awesome. So that really concludes the MessageBoard application. I'm gonna do a quick little run through, make sure all of our functionality is still there. Get a little alert message when we sign in. When we sign in on our root page, we're presented with all of our message tiles. So say we want to create a new message. Let's do small indie rock band's new CD got released. Small indie rock band's new CD got released, and let's get some text for that. Let's just get this part right here. Go back over. Let's create that. And you can see that the message gets added right here. And if we want to view what's going on in that, we have the title, we have when it was posted and by who, we have the description, we have a comment section. So if someone wants to comment on it, I love this CD, create a comment, and it'll appear right there. You can edit and delete only your own comments. I love this CD. Let's say he really likes this CD, so we'll update that. Awesome. And now I can edit and update the message. So small indie rock band CD got released, an exclamation point. There it is. And now if we go back and view one that's not created by me, I can't edit contents that aren't by me, and I can't edit messages that aren't by me. So that's it. I want to thank you guys so much for sticking through this tutorial. I know it was a long one, but I really appreciate you guys sticking through it and watching the content. I plan on doing more of these, so if you guys enjoyed this tutorial and you have any pointers for me, any ways I can improve, please don't hesitate to leave a comment or message me. I'm looking for all the ways I can to improve what I do. So thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe for some new content. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys later.